Have you ever wondered how someone could spend 6 months researching their first cow and still lose $2,000 in the first 3 months? Wrong breed, wrong timing, wrong assumptions. The research was solid, the decisions were wrong. That gap is exactly what this video covers. Strategic framework. These 8 mistakes build on each other, which is why most people make more than one. It starts before you buy. Which animal? From where? At what point in her cycle? From there, feed costs, infrastructure, and who you call when something goes wrong. The final layer is what most never plan for: the milk, the breeding, the daily time. Understand the sequence, and you'll know whether a cow fits before you hand over $1. Breed selection. The most common first cow purchase in America is a Holstein. On a small homestead under 5 acres, it's almost always the wrong choice. A lactating Holstein needs 26 to 30 pounds of grain daily, plus 30 or more pounds of hay. That's $13 to $18 per day just in feed. A Jersey produces only slightly less milk at 6 to 8 gallons per day, weighs 200 to 400 pounds less, eats less, and her milk runs 4.5 to 5% butterfat versus the Holstein's 3.5. More product per gallon, lower daily cost. Under 3 acres, look at a Dexter or Dexter Jersey Cross. 600 to 700 pounds, dual purpose, and 1 acre of managed pasture can carry her through most of the grazing season. Amish farmers in Holmes County, Ohio, the largest Amish settlement in the world, run Jerseys and Brown Swiss for dairy. Dexter's for dual purpose. Feed to output ratio has to match the land. That's accounting, not preference. One thing most people skip: large framed cattle over 800 pounds can trigger different livestock ordinances in many counties. Check your zoning code before the animal is in the barn. Feed math. Most people calculate feed costs like a grocery run, daily need times 30. That monthly number feels manageable. The problem is dairy cows don't have steady monthly costs. A cow's year has 3 phases: lactation, 305 days, the dry period, 60 days, and transition, 3 weeks around calving. Overfeeding during the dry period causes metabolic issues at freshening that run $300 to $500 to treat. The transition period demands precise calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium balance. Get it wrong, and you're looking at milk fever or grass tetany. Full year cost for a mid-sized Jersey: $1,800 to $2,400 in hay, $700 to $1,000 in grain, $150 to $250 in minerals, $200 to $400 in bedding. That's $2,850 to $4,050 before a single vet visit. The math works, but not from week 1. Buying dry. There are 2 ways to buy your first dairy cow: fresh or dry. Fresh means she recently calved and is actively producing. Dry means she's between lactations. Most buyers don't know the difference matters. It does, significantly. A dry cow lists for $1,000 to $1,400. A fresh Jersey runs $1,600 to $2,200. That $600 savings is what hooks people. What they don't calculate: 60 days of feed at $13 to $18 per day is $780 to $1,080 before she gives you a single drop. You saved $600. You spent $780 waiting. You're behind before she ever produces. A fresh cow also tells you everything up front: how she milks, her temperament, her udder attachment. A dry cow tells you nothing. Before any purchase, ask for a CMT test every quarter. A $20 kit screens for subclinical mastitis that won't show until she freshens. By then, that quarter may be permanently compromised. Amish farmers in the Finger Lakes region of New York call buying a dry cow from a stranger buying a promise. That's accurate. Buying from a sale barn. Walk into any livestock auction and you'll find dairy cows selling for $400 to $900, hundreds below private farm prices. That gap feels like a deal. It almost never is. Cows go to sale barns for reasons. Sometimes the reason is a legitimate herd reduction. More often it's production problems, chronic mastitis, reproductive failure, or a temperament the original owner got tired of managing. You don't know which one you're buying, and the auctioneer isn't required to tell you. At a private farm, you can watch the cow milk out, observe her behavior, talk to the owner, and get records. At a sale barn, you get 90 seconds in a ring under artificial light with a stressed animal who hasn't eaten normally in 24 hours. That's not enough information to make a $1,500 decision. The health risk compounds it. Sale barn cattle mix with animals from dozens of farms. Bovine respiratory disease, pink eye, and ringworm spread quickly in that environment. A newly purchased auction cow should be quarantined for a minimum of 30 days before contact with any other animals. Most first-time buyers don't have a separate quarantine space. Buy from a farm where you can see how the animal actually lives. No breeding plan. A dairy cow produces milk because she calved. She dries off roughly 60 days before her next calf is due. To keep her in milk, she needs to be rebred, typically within 60 to 90 days after calving. Most first-time buyers don't think past the first lactation. By month 10, they have a dry cow and no plan. There are two options: artificial insemination or access to a bull. AI semen from a proven Jersey bull runs $15 to $50 per straw, plus a $40 to $80 synchronization protocol if you're not heat detecting manually. Success rate on a single attempt averages 55 to 65%, meaning you may need 2 or 3 attempts per breeding. Total cost per successful pregnancy, $75 to $250. Owning a bull solves the timing problem but creates others. A mature bull needs separate reinforced housing, eats as much as a cow, and is statistically the most dangerous animal on any small farm. Bulls cause more farmer fatalities per year than any other livestock species. The most practical option for most small homesteads: find a neighbor with a registered Jersey bull and arrange a breeding agreement before the cow dries off. That conversation is easier to have in month 3 than in month 9. The time commitment: a dairy cow needs to be milked twice a day, every day, 365 days a year. Not most days. Not when it's convenient. Every day, including holidays, during illness, during bad weather, and the morning after a family emergency. Miss a milking and production drops. Miss 2, and you risk mastitis. Go past 16 hours between milkings consistently, and you're permanently reducing her peak output for that lactation. The cow doesn't negotiate. The schedule doesn't flex. Each milking, setup, milk out, cleanup, runs 30 to 45 minutes for a single cow done efficiently. That's 60 to 90 minutes per day. Minimum. Over a 305-day lactation, that's 305 to 457 hours of hands-on work from one animal, before feeding, watering, or anything else. The failure most people hit around month 4: travel. A weekend away requires someone who knows how to milk a cow, handle a stanchion, and recognize early signs of mastitis. That person is harder to find than most new owners expect. The Amish approach this practically. They don't expand the dairy herd until they have 2 people in the household who can milk competently. One person getting sick or injured can't shut the operation down. If you don't have a reliable backup milker identified before the cow arrives, you don't have a complete plan. Infrastructure: a dairy cow needs 4 things to function safely on a small farm: a dry shelter, a water source that doesn't freeze, a stanchion or head gate, and fencing that actually holds her. Most new buyers arrive with 2 of those 4 in place. The missing 2 are almost always the head gate and the fencing. The fencing problem shows up fast. A single strand of barbed wire, the most common thing people inherit when they buy a rural property, does not reliably contain cattle. A mature cow weighing 1,000 pounds that decides she wants through a fence will go through it. Installing woven wire perimeter fencing, the practical minimum standard for cattle, runs $1.50 to $3.50 per linear foot installed. A 1-acre square perimeter measures roughly 830 feet. That's $1,245 to $2,905 in fencing alone, before a single gate is hung. High-tensile electric fencing cuts that cost to 50 cents to $1 per foot, but cattle must be trained to respect it. A cow that hasn't learned electric will walk through a single strand and keep walking. Training requires a contained space, which you may not have on day 1. The headgate problem is quieter but more dangerous. Routine cow care: hoof trimming, vaccinations, pregnancy checks, treating minor wounds requires restraint. Without a headgate or stanchion, you're either paying a vet extra to work an unrestrained animal, which raises the bill and the risk, or you're doing it yourself in a way that's unsafe for both of you. A basic stanchion can be built for $150 to $300 in materials. A used headgate runs $200 to $500. Neither is optional. The specific failure that catches first-timers: a new cow that escapes on her first night. A cow in an unfamiliar environment is a cow looking for the fence line. The liability from a cow that reaches a road or a neighbor's property can dwarf the original purchase price, and your standard homeowner's policy may not cover livestock damage claims. Water is the other infrastructure people underestimate in winter. A lactating dairy cow needs 30 to 50 gallons of fresh water daily. Haul that by bucket through January and production drops fast. And a cow in negative energy balance during a cold snap is a cow trending toward health problems. No established vet relationship. Here's a number worth knowing before you finalize any purchase. An emergency farm call from a large animal veterinarian in rural America currently averages $150 to $300 just for the visit, before a single treatment is administered. After hours, nights, weekends, holidays, that call fee reaches $400 to $600 at many practices. Cattle emergencies don't schedule themselves for Tuesday morning. The most common emergencies in first-year dairy cows are milk fever, bloat, hardware disease, retained placenta, and dystocia. All of them are time-sensitive. Milk fever, hypocalcemia, can kill within 6 to 8 hours without IV calcium treatment. Bloat can be fatal within hours if not relieved. Dystocia, a calf stuck in the birth canal, requires intervention within a narrow window or you lose the calf, the cow, or both. These aren't rare events. They're common enough that experienced farmers budget for them as a normal line item. A vet you've never met doesn't prioritize your call the same way they prioritize a call from a farm they've serviced for 10 years. That's not cynicism. It's how any relationship-based service works. Established clients get callbacks faster. They get the benefit of the doubt on phone triage. They sometimes get walk-through guidance that saves the trip fee entirely. A first call from a stranger mid-crisis is the most expensive call you can make to a large animal practice. Here's the concrete problem. The AVMA reported in 2022 that food animal practitioners represent fewer than 7% of all veterinary practitioners in the United States, and that number has been declining for 2 decades. In many rural counties, there is one large animal vet, and they have a full client list. They are not waiting for your call. The fix is simple and inexpensive. Call before you buy the cow, tell them you're purchasing your first dairy animal, ask whether they're accepting new cattle clients, and schedule a pre-purchase wellness exam. That exam runs $80 to $150. It establishes the relationship, creates a file on your property, and gives you a vet who has seen your setup before an emergency makes introductions for you. Amish farmers in Geauga County, Ohio, maintain relationships with specific large animal practitioners the same way they maintain relationships with their feed supplier, deliberately, before they need anything urgent. The number I promised, arriving at your first cattle emergency without an established vet relationship, costs 40 to 60% more than the same call placed by an existing client. Emergency premium, no prior records, unfamiliar animal. It stacks fast. On a $400 call, that gap is $160 to $240 across 2 or 3 first-year health events, which is normal for a new cow in a new environment. That's $320 to $720 in avoidable spending. All of it preventable with an $80 wellness call made before you ever back a trailer up to your gate. Amish farmers in Lancaster County apply a 2-part filter before adding any cow to a working farm. First question, asked honestly, can this animal feed herself for at least 4 months of the year on what the land already grows? If the answer is no, build the pasture before you buy the animal. Fence the rotation paddocks. Get the water system in before winter. A cow added to land that's already producing is a cow whose costs stay manageable. Second question, do you know what healthy looks like? Not sick, healthy. Body condition, udder appearance, normal daily behavior. That knowledge is what gets you to a vet call before an emergency, not after one. Those 2 questions answered honestly will tell you whether you're ready or whether you're about to buy a very expensive education.